Today's presentation, I am very excited to present. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder was my topic that I chose because it really meant something to me because I went through it. Exactly the things that mentioned in the book, the symptoms, the challenges that they went through. I've read a lot of books regarding things into your adulthood, things that help me get through some different things that I find challenging. But earlier in my academic year, it was brought to my attention that I was diagnosed with ADHD. I had counselors, not effective ones, when I read about ABA, and I'm like, wow, if I would have had that growing up, maybe my relationships with my teachers would have been a little bit different. I know how it was brought to their attention where my grades were so up in the air. I would either be caught daydreaming in class, I would break my pencil just to get up from class, I would constantly move. When my mom told me that if I could get straight A's, I would be able to get that CD player I had my eyes on at the store. And guess what? I got all A's. So having that external motivation really helped. I know when I was reading the book and did my presentation, when they talked about the symptoms of your hyper, would get out of my seat. I would fidget, any excuse. I would have to go to the restroom again. Seek attention through like causing mischief within the classes. Inattentiveness, like tedious details, long, boring stories. I get very inattentive. If a teacher presents the content of just lecture, sit down, I would daydream or get into some serious trouble just to find something exciting. I thrive off attention, and I grew up playing sports, so I love playing in front of people. I love speaking in front of people. I do book assemblies, and I absolutely love it. I love performing in front of people. I love when parents stay and watch my classes that I teach. I love being on the microphone sometimes, just because that I enjoy that. One of the things when I was reading the book, completely aligned with what I experienced was they're saying like, well, why is ADD? How is ADHD happening? What's going on? My life history was, I later found out through my mom, she had complications. The umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck at birth, and there was some oxygen that when in the early stages was missing. I also have a father who's very hyperactive, as well as an aunt who's very hyperactive, have the same patterns in me. Busy, 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 gotta keep going, gotta keep going, gotta keep doing things. Another thing that they mentioned, the possibility of coming from an abusive household. My father was very verbally abusive. He'd leave me at basketball games if I didn't score enough points. I would have to dribble downstairs. I remember doing Pistol Pete's VHS tapes and doing all of those drills, because if I didn't play defense the proper way, if I parked the car the wrong way, I would be significantly punished for that. So they said children who experience a lot of trauma earlier in their lifetime could also be effective. So everything is kind of coming together with this puzzle. Coping skills that I have found very effective for me is lists. I absolutely love checklists. I like keeping very organized. I like, even in my coursework, I try to stay a couple days ahead of the assignments, just so it eases my mind. I'm very detailed. Even all my soups face me. My sneakers are all lined up. I put my clothes out for the week. I just do things that way just to like ease my mind, as far as flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing, because I know in here is very disorganized, so I like to keep my environment as organized as possible. So I really found a lot of tools with the time to task a couple weeks ago, very beneficial, especially where it's hard for me to get connected sometimes. And I always say, ride the wave, because when I'm in it, I love to ride the wave and just keep on going. Sometimes it's really hard to even get on the wave. So I really had a huge connection to this topic. I really enjoyed learning about this topic and experiencing it like, wow, those are the experiences that I went through. These are the symptoms that I always had. Diagnosed, treatment, not so much. Intervention, not so much. I just remember the sheet of paper, like short-term memory was something that was on. It did say I was very creative. In that mix, it said I was, couldn't sit still, easily distracted was some other words I remember on that sheet of paper, which is down in the basement in a box. I have no idea, where it even is. But I do remember those key words. One of the things is the specialties that I got. I was able to, when I took exams, my time was a little bit longer and I could sit in rooms where it was quiet. I've noticed sitting in a classroom trying to take a test, I get very distracted, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking about something else, not even the answer, what the correct response is for a test. When I take exams here, my secret is even outside noises. I wear my Dre Beats without any music, just so I don't have any sounds to distract me. So let's continue with the presentation. And how, when I think about living with hyperactivity, this is one thing that always kept in mind. So in the next slide, I just want you to see if you can quickly find the photo of the bed in 3 seconds. I hope that you found it. You can see this is exactly how sometimes when you're trying to sit down and think in an academic setting, you're in class and all these things are just popping up, whether it's someone in their seat moving, whether it's someone making a sound, all of these things, you get very easily distracted and can't find your way. So you can see right here is the bed. You found it. And then we go on to the next slide, and then you can see in the next slide, can you find the photo of the bed in 3 seconds? And this symbolizes you can easily find the bed, and how that's describing is all the pictures that started to distract you to find the bed and find that task and complete that task. Was challenging, but when students receive effective intervention plans, they are able to see, for this instance, the photo of the bed. It's very quick. It's time to task. You can see it right away. There's no environmental distractions. There is nothing. And that's kind of very similar to how I look at effective treatment and the importance of people who are practicing ABA to always remember you want that child to find the bed just like in this photo. So we move on. The studies and the research within the field of ABA with ADHD. There are many articles that I find fascinating coming from the sports and fitness background, as well as my experiences. If I know I have a meeting, I'll try to run on the treadmill for a little bit just to kind of get out my wiggles and giggles. If I know I'm going to need full attention as far as like when I do my budget planning or when I enter data into the computer system for programming, I know I better be running or I better be lifting or doing something physical in order for me to calm down a little bit. So there was a lot of information that I enjoyed learning about as far as the physical activity that helped students more succeed, and it improved their functioning throughout the school day. The behavior that was undesirable decreased, while the time, attention to detail, and completing tasks increased. The other articles that we mentioned is the multi-model approach, where you have the medication, such as Ritalin, that will provide assistance for the children. Let's say an example, to sit in their seat. But the intervention teaches the skills for them to cope and self-control and self-monitor themselves. So one of the most important ones that I came across was that multi-model approach, as well as piggyback with the antecedents, with the consequences in an individualized intervention program. There was another one where it was computerized, using technology, where it really captivated the interest for the student to stay on task, as well as they seem less distracted. And then another approach was finding the individualized program of students' interests, which was another one, and using those skills as far as technology and combining them together with physical activity. The gaps and barriers within the field of ADHD that I noticed is coming up with an education system or a classroom that was more hands-on, that was more group generated, where they're getting that peer attention and they are also being able to move. I know when I worked at a school and I provided PE classes, one of the things that I created was the movement in the morning, and then I'd have the movement midday, and then I'd have the yoga already integrated within the classroom, as well as the PE classes. And it really is just to get the wiggles and giggles out in the morning, then do it again midday, and then again afternoon. So children's having a more physical education, physical activity environment, where children who are hyper, and I experience even adult, if I know I'm going to be sitting for a while, I have to move, or even in an adult meeting, I can kind of get very fidgety. I can get impulsive. Like sometimes I'm talking over people, and I used one of the things I learned a couple weeks ago in one of the courses regarding the paper clips. Each time I was about to cut someone off because I got excited talking, I took the paper clip out of my left pocket and put it in my right pocket. And it really started to train me, like, wow, I'm even more impulsive than I thought. So those little self-monitoring tricks work too. So those were like some of the significant things I've noticed with the gaps, and focusing on more of a child's interests. And that's where I noticed where things I wasn't interested in, it was really hard for me to get out of the gates and excited about. But things I was interested in, I get hyper focused. Like nothing is around me at that point. I'm just so excited about the information. Very similar to when I read this particular chapter. I was so in it. I was like, let me read that again. Let me say that aloud again. I was really invested. So interested to know finding children's interests and how that plays out better. Because we always talk about being successful, and it's like, do you really want your accountant to learn how to operate on an individual? Not really. Do you really want your doctor to be an expert at being a mechanic? Not really. So you hear where I'm going with is having that passion and being really good at it. Some areas of improvement in the field of ADHD is highlighting more of the people that we know and really have that platform to showcase, like, they have it. All of these celebrities that you see in front of you have been diagnosed with ADHD, and they are successful, and they are animated, they are intelligent, they are movers, they are activists, they have a voice, they're very creative. Some of them have behaviors of that perfectionist OCD, but putting it more in the forefront of, especially for parents to be like, This is okay.